Hi guys, so today I'm going to talk about and share with you my viewpoints of living in US as compared to living in India. Now those who are living or have experienced living in US might not agree with my viewpoints or might feel a little bit different. So that's totally, personal thinking and personal viewpoints. So I respect those too. But I'm going to go ahead and share my viewpoints and let you know how I feel. And I'm hoping that, this is going to help those people who are planning in near future or, later on in the day to move to US or maybe other foreign countries. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. We moved, not we, but I, because my husband was already here before. But I moved to US, I think, around in 1999. So it's been like what, about 20 years? So it's been a long time. And during this process, my thoughts, how I feel about living in India or how I feel about living in US has changed over the years. So yeah, that happens. So initially, once I got married, and I moved here, and even before, while I was, when I had to, fly over, I would, tell my parents and even my in-laws whenever I used to visit them, and I used to go there very often, like, at least twice a year, and if not twice, at least, once a year. And I would tell them, like, oh no, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to make sure that my hubby also, my husband, I'll make sure that he also, agrees to it. So I'm going to change his viewpoints and I'll change his mind too. Because my mother-in-law was like, no, he is never going to come back, because ever since, he became an adult or he was in college, his focus was, I have to go to US and that's where I'm going to stay. So, but I am, that patriotic kind, watching, patriotic movies and stuff, Hindi movies, Manoj Kumar movies and stuff. And I was like, no, I want to go back to my own country eventually. So I would tell them, no, we will move back. We will eventually move back. But unfortunately, over the years, even my, thoughts and my way of thinking has, changed. And God willingly, because, you never know what's going to happen. At this point of time, I can say that, this is where we will probably, stay our whole life. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about, first I'll talk about from the viewpoint of a person who is going to work in US. So if it's your husband who's moving because you're moving because of your husband and he has a job or he's got an offer, or it's you yourself who's got an offer, then, I'll tell you how, your life is here as compared to what your life would be if you were working in India. Now, they're both positives and negatives, and I'm going to talk about both of them from both the sides. So first, talking about US, how life or, as an individual would be if you're working in US. Now, the positive thing about working in US is, the first thing is that it's a very, professional environment in your workplace. Your boss, your colleagues, they will be nice and friendly and, they'll be at your professional level, you'll be working with them. Now, the good thing here is that in US, it's, in India, you are doing overtime. If there's more work, your boss will expect you to stay back and work maybe even late in the night. And, that's a common thing. However, in US, it's, fixed 8 hours job. And if you like, it's, up to you. So if you feel that you need to work, it's your wish, your call, and you can go ahead and do some overtime. But your bosses or your will not expect you to, do this overtime. So it's not, something that is expected of you. It's up to you. Whereas in India, it is expected of you. And if you're not doing it, that means you're not a good worker. And you might even, get fired because of that. Or not be in a good, you won't get a good recommendation or a good letter of recommendation from your, higher position when you have, you won't be promoted. But unlike that, here, they know, yeah, you have a family life and you need to go back home on time. So it's your call. Now, not only that, your bosses, it's not, there, it is how you are socially connected with your boss, how well you are, well you know him, you're calling them for dinners and parties and stuff. That happens in India. However, in US, it's more on a professional basis. So you see them at work, you talk professionally, and you come back. And they're looking at your work, and they are, gauging how you are and, what incentives or what promotion should be given to you. Now, these are some plus points. But coming to some negative points of working in US is, you are an Asian. No matter what, your color is different from, if you have an American boss, color is different from the Americans. Even, at times, if you haven't studied here, your accent, just like mine, is not going to be like them. So, no matter how hard you try to fit in, it's going to be tough for you. Not only that, and I'm going to be very frank, that getting into higher positions is very tough. So if you see people, here, your CEOs or your vice presidents, they're mostly Americans. And I'll again be very blunt, most of the time it happens that your boss would know less than you. So, it's not 100% because of their work, I would say, that they are at that place. But probably being an American has helped them. And I've seen that in a number of, places. And not only, in small companies, but even in big companies too. So yeah, that's a negative point here. However, in India, everybody is your same color, your same way of speaking. So, you are one, you're among the group. You are not, out of the crowd. You're one of the person in the crowd. So you don't stand out or you're not different. So, this problem doesn't arise there. Now, I'm talking, if I, remember something else, I'll, probably talk about that too as we go on chatting. Now, I'll talk about from the viewpoint of a spouse. So if your husband is moving and you are coming along with them, along with your husband. So how, and probably you might not be working, you're going to be staying at home. So how would your life be different as compared to your life in India? So this would be really, useful for ladies or wives who are coming with their husbands. Now, when I moved, I was studying. So I had just finished my master's. So I knew that I have worked and I've also left my job in US. So I have had both the experiences. Now, when you move to US, you're not going to get a job, even if you're well qualified, immediately. The reason being that most of the qualifications that you have would not probably be counted equivalent to the qualifications in US. So let's say if you've done masters in India, your masters will not be considered as a masters equivalent to the masters in US, because that's what I faced, and I was pretty surprised because the number of years of their bachelors and number of years that we do bachelors in India is so different. So, you probably would have to do higher studies. So, your educational qualification, that's kind of unfair because you worked hard and now you're not a master but a bachelor. You're just being, being equivalent to a bachelor, a person who's done bachelors in US. That hurts. Now, the next thing is that when you initially come to US, it's going to be very lonely. You will hardly have friends. The only friends will be, Indians that probably your husband is going to, know in his workplace. So, unlike in India where you have your own friends, you have your school friends, your college friends, your own friends, you've lost them all. Now, the other thing is that I'm going to be all over the place. So I'm not going to be, that organized. But whatever comes in my mind, I'm going to keep talking about. So the other thing that I felt when I moved to US was that everything was so different. That you hardly, you don't talk the way these Americans talk. So it's very difficult to make friends with them. Though, most of the time they're very friendly, but you still feel out of place. You're hesitant in talking. But, over the years, things change. But those initial few years might be, or few months, depending upon your personality, would be different. Now, you're going to miss your family. Now, if you are, if you have parents in India, and you're moving here, and if you are a boy, you will probably have this guilt all the time that, you're not with your parents, and in their time of need, You are not going to be there if they are sick or ill. You're not there to help them out. So that guilt and that, pain and that sadness was always going to be with you. So that's one very, negative point of being in US. You are hardly going to meet your parents, maybe once a year maximum, because you get limited holidays. I think the maximum you can get is about 3 weeks, mostly in, any job place. So, and that 3 weeks, when you go there, you're hardly spending much time with your parents, and your parents would probably be missing you. You will not be able to, be with your brothers or sisters if you have any, and they are in India or any part. Whereas if you were in India and they were in a different state also, then also, it's more frequent because of the distance. The distance is not that far away. You're not that far away. So you can still, during vacations or holidays or for a week or so, or even for a couple of days, you can always go, and meet them. But since you're so far away in US, and it takes like around 24 hours probably, in a flight, which is so tiring, it's not possible. It's so costly to go, right? So it's going to be, initially you will probably try to be there, go and visit your relatives, your parents, your brothers and sisters in India once a year. But as, time passes by, that connection, that desire and that, drive that you had to go and meet them is slowly going to become lesser and lesser. And that's how human nature is. And so, you will, from going initially once every year, it's going to be like 2 or 3 years, or then, maybe 10 years. Because I remember I used to go every year. And then, it started decreasing to like every 2 years or something. And now the last time I went, I think it was like, I went about, it's been like 5 years at least that I haven't gone there. So things probably would have changed so much in India. So yeah, so you're going to finally, even then the people in India, their parents and your brothers and sisters, they'll also, start forgetting you. And that love, that connection that you had with them before, that bond, it starts to become thinner. Now, because they are going to get busy in their own lives, you're hardly meeting them. They'll have their own, the ones, if you have other brothers, they'll be more closer to each other. Your parents, they'll be more closer to the child or the kid that is living with them or is in India rather than you. So you will be, you'll feel a little isolated or a little bit less loved if, that your parents are probably, they don't love you much. Because, yeah, I mean, whoever is closer, to your parents, living close to them, is the one, parents are going to remember. Because we face this. Now, even, like, it's sad, but my in-laws, so when at times they're speaking, and they want to ask about my son. So because they're so used to, and even my parents, so when they are also speaking and, they want to talk about, how is my son. So when they speak, instead of, calling his name, they'll, again and again call their other granddaughter or grandson's name, because those are the ones they're living with or they're meeting them more frequently. So that hurts, how come you don't remember my son, or how come you don't remember me? Because, at times they even will call you, like my mother-in-law at times, when she talks to me, instead of calling me by my name, she'll call me by her daughter's name. And I'm like, wow. So, you generally get that idea, okay, that's because, you are not that close to them and they're forgetting you. That closeness, that bond has, slowly become less. So, yeah, and you feel it because you are away and, you don't have that many friends around or, that many relatives. So, you are still connected to them. But they found new people, they've got some other person, in place of you that, they could. But for you, there's no one. You can't replace them. But they were able to replace you. So, I mean, that happens at times. I mean, I'm not saying that all parents do it or they do it intentionally. But that's how it is. And I'll be very frank with you. And that at times hurts also. And that's the time you say, oh, just because I'm so far away, now even those who had given me birth or those who are my blood relations, have forgotten me or you are in the process of forgetting me slowly and slowly. So that hurts. Now, if you have, kids, you get, once you are, like for me, my son was born here. So, you miss, as I feel that, he misses that love that he would have got from his grandparents, you know, both from my side and my husband's side. Because if I remember, you know, I'll share my experience. So when we were young, you know, we had such lovely time with our grandparents. My nani is means like, you know, if you know, you don't know, nani is your mother's mother. So my nani used to, you know, tell us nice stories, you know, fairy tales and fables and all. And at night, you know, whenever we used to go to her place, all cousins and everybody, you know, used to, you know, snuggle into one bed and, you know, ask her to, you know, go in the night time, you know, before going to bed, you know, and come tell us stories. And, you know, late till night we would keep telling her, you know, to repeat. Even though we've heard those stories, you know, 1,000 times, we'll still ask her to tell us those stories. Those times that we spent when we were all together, you know, late in the night, all the cousins sitting in one room watching horror movies. And then, you know, at the end of the, you know, initially when the movie used to start, we used to be fighting for a space, you know, in the bed, because, you know, there were so many of us and there was hardly any space, that the bed would, you know, would be small for us. And we would be like, you know, pushing and telling each and everyone, you know, that go ahead and move a little bit, you know, we don't have enough space to sit. And, you know, if you're watching a horror movie, I still remember in the middle, we would realize, you know, when an adult would come, that, you know, the whole bed is empty and everybody's sitting on top of each other because we're all scared watching that horror movie. So those experiences that we had, the games we played and things like that, your son or your child would be missing that all here. Why? Because first and foremost, there are going to be hardly any kids around. Nowadays, the kids, especially in America, they're more into, you know, video games. They're more into TVs. And then plus, you know, the houses are far apart. So the chance of meeting your neighbors and the chance of that they have kids your age, it's very, very less. And you don't have cousins here. Now, if you have some cousins too, I mean, if you or your brothers and your sisters have also moved to, you know, US, then it becomes a little less as a problem. But still, you know, as compared to India, it's still a problem because you're not going to be meeting them that frequently. Because you know, the only times you know, you get a chance to meet them would be either during Christmas or during New Year or during summer vacation. And that too, you know, there are other stuff going on in their life and this. So life here, you know, is, you know, people are very much into their own life rather than socializing like we have in India. Where, you know, every Saturday, Sunday, you know, there's a get together, all the cousins, all brothers, sisters are meeting together and you get to meet your cousins there and the kids get to play. That doesn't happen here. So yeah, that's one thing that, you know, if you have kids and you're planning to have kids, they're going to suffer. Not only that, you know, your kids will not know the language, your mother tongue. For example, my son, he was born here. No matter, you know, how hard you try, it's going to be tough. Now, we speak Hindi at home, and that we've done that ever since he's been born. Hindi is the way, I mean, not even he's born, ever since he's been born, but even, you know, before. So we speak to each other, like me and my husband, or when I'm talking to my son, even now, I speak in Hindi. And he's able to understand, my son is able to understand. I thought he was able to understand completely, but now, you know, as time goes by, he tells me that, you know, he's able to understand some of it, what I'm saying. So, you know, he's able to understand, but he's not able to speak it at all. So even if you're watching a Hindi movie, he is just, you know, looking at the picture, or if there's a caption, he's reading and trying to figure out what's going on. So he has lost this new generation that is going to come. They will not know their language. They won't know Hindi or whatever mother tongue you have. And, you know, that also, you know, you feel, wow, it's sad that, you know, there's a language, you know, that now your son doesn't know, which, you know, you knew or you know. So yeah, he's not able to speak Hindi at all. And it becomes tough now when you're talking to in India with your grandparents, it gets tough. They're not able to understand him because he's speaking in English. I mean, they know English and they can speak in English with him. But his accent is so different that it gets tough for them to, you know, understand what exactly is he saying. And then when they ask him something, it's difficult for him to understand what they are saying. So you know how hard it is now for the kids here to, you know, actually communicate. So that is another sad part. So again, so that, you know, even with cousins, So those cousins now, if they're not able to understand him. If I try to tell him, okay, go ahead and talk to your cousin. So it gets a little tough for them. But yeah, at this age, they're young. But as they grow, then probably, if people in India, my cousins, kids will also, now know English because they'll be going to school and stuff. But at this point, if it's Hindi, they're basically speaking with little English. It is tough for them to communicate. So again, that bond doesn't, is not formed between the kids. Education. Now, if you have kids, you're planning, to live here, obviously you will have kids. So you need to look at the education. Now, I would say that education in US is so very different from education in India. Now, both good way and bad way. So in a good way, I would say that in US, education is not that stressful. So, if you look at in India, there is so much of competition. Even a 99% is, now it's said to be not that good because there are so many kids who would be having a 99 or even 100%. So competition is, very, very high over there. And people and the parents are on to their kids, to study hard, and they're spending almost like the whole of their life just studying, day and night with hardly any play or any personal time. But here in US, education is not that stressful. Now, for example, my son, he gets like hardly any homework. So the only homework he probably gets, every day would be math. I would say is math. So, sorry guys, my phone, its battery became low. So unfortunately, I had to stop with my flow of thoughts. But okay, coming back again, I was talking about education, if you're thinking about your kids' education. So comparing the two educations, as I was discussing, that here in US, education is quite stress-free. So like I was saying that my son, he gets hardly any homework. But I'm not saying he's not going to get any homework at all the time. It's just that, when you're in elementary school or in middle school, life is very easy for you. So there's hardly any homework assignments. The only homeworks you get is like once a week maybe. And that too, you get a weekend to, do your homework. So, but as get into high school and this, yeah, you'll get more homework. There'll be more studies, but not as, stressful as, in India. Now, the other positive thing about education in US is that everybody is going to go into colleges. And, if you have a passion for a particular, field, let's say you want to become a doctor or you want to become, a you want to go into maybe computer science or something, there are so many colleges. You might not get into the top colleges, but you will get, admission to colleges. The likelihood of you not getting into colleges, and get your, subject or whatever you want to major in is very less. However, in India and in US, it's purely on merit basis. So merit basis, when I say, it means on your, what grades you've got, how did you do your SAT or your ACT and things like that. However, in India, and I'm going to be frank here, it's not just your grades. Of course, if you have good grades, you've done, really good on your boards, which is, your, for those who are in America, Americans who are watching, it is actually, 12th grade finals, just like we have SAT and ACT, they have boards. So it's, in India, boards, if you have done awesome, like, it's out of ordinary, then of course you are going to get, the chances of getting is quite good. But that's not the only thing that counts in there. You have entrances in India. So not only you have to do really good on your board exams, but then every college, every university has their own entrance exams. And then you have to clear those entrance exams, and only then you get an admission into colleges. So that's a lot of struggle for the kids in India. So not only are they studying for the boards, the 12th grade finals, or I would say if I compare it with SAT. So not only are they studying for the SAT, but they're also, studying for every entrance test for every college that they want to apply. And the competition, let me tell you, is very high, and it is tough getting into colleges. The other negative thing about studies in India is the donation, the bribe system. So, if you have money, yeah, then you can definitely, go ahead and get your kid into a good college or a good university in India. But if you're not rich, then, your kid is going to suffer. So I've seen, so many of my, even relatives and friends and colleagues who, were able to get their kids into good colleges because they had the money to spend. But, for kids who parents are poor or are middle class, getting their kids, and the kids have now, for some reason not been able to outshine, getting into, the college of their choice or the field that they wanted gets tough. So that's a major negativity in this. Now, back to US. It's not all good in US regarding the education system. Now, I'll tell you what is the negativity of in the education system in US. And I'll be again very frank. And it might hurt some people's feeling, but that's how it is. And that's come on in newspapers and news and all. And if you're aware, the Harvard, which, I'm hoping that everybody knows, is one of the top universities in the whole world. Everybody is, every kid wants to be, that's their dream, to be in that college. So, it's been in news that they have a lawsuit against them. And the lawsuit has been done by who? Asians. When I say Asians, it's Indians, it's Chinese. So, that Asians. So now the lawsuit is, I'll, give you a little background. The lawsuit is that they are doing disparity during the admissions against Asians. Now what they are doing is, and I'm telling you, that's the truth, that's happening. That now in US, you get admitted into colleges depending upon, there are a few factors. The first and foremost is your, what grades you got in your high school. So that high school means from 9th to 12th grade onwards. The second thing that, is that they count is your SAT or ACT scores. So if you have a great SAT or ACT score, your chances is that, you're going to get into good colleges. Now, some colleges have interview systems and other, criterias, what extracurriculars have you done or what other things you've achieved, games, sports and all that. Now, my personal belief, is that, when they're trying to get into college and they're going into colleges for studies, you should be counting only the education part of their studies, in fact, like, what grades they got in school or how did they do on their SATs, rather than, how they did on the interview when they took it, when the particular college took it, or what extracurriculars did you do and all those stuff. My personal belief is that is immaterial. Because if somebody wants to, let's say, get into computer science, he wants to be a computer engineer. So you don't want, how does what extracurriculars that person did help him in the field that he wants to get into? So these are certain things that the colleges have done to, tweak and, get into, have their say in who they'll pick. Because if it was clear, this is we are going to take kids only on academic, from what they got, like the percentage, the percentages that they got or what they scored in SAT, it would be, clear. So that who's getting in and who's probably not going to be getting in, right? The picture is going to be clear to everyone and it's going to be a fair practice. But now since they've put in these other factors, now these colleges have a say in how, who they want to pick. So what Harvard has done, because they are using not just SATs, but all these extracurricular and other things, interviews that they're taking, what they are doing is they are choosing Americans over Indians or Asians. Now, even if an Asian has scored really high or maybe even a perfect score on SAT or ACT, they are being declined into Harvard and with no excuses, but but if you ask them, the reason being that, oh, they did not do well on the interview or, their interpersonal skills were not that good and blah, blah, blah. So obviously, that's just a way of, trying to get away and make sure that, they have Americans because obviously, I'll be very frank that Asians are, much more hardworking, much more competitive in where, education is, concerned. So if they take it on the basis of, the scores, the SAT or ACT or high school, how did they score in their high schools, I think the Harvard would be more, 99% at least filled with Asians. So they don't want that. So what they've done is they've made excuses, and bright, deserving kids, just because they're Asians, are not being given the opportunity to study in these colleges, their dream colleges, even though they've worked hard for it and they deserve it. So this is what the lawsuit is about, that the Asian group has, you know, there's a lawsuit that they have done towards Harvard, saying that, you know, this is not fair. And not only that, they have also, you know, these colleges, some of these colleges have, what they've done is that, let's say they've decided, okay, we are going to say, let's say people who have a 35 or above on ACT, or, you know, some level they've marked, that these are the people we'll, you know, take into our college. So what they'll do is, if it's an Asian who's, you know, applying for that college, they will say, oh, for normal we have said 35, or let's say 32, but we'll only take Asian. If that student is an Asian, we're going to increase their points. So instead of 32, they should have a 35. Only then we'll consider them or take them in. So again, that's unfair. Just because they are a different race doesn't mean that, you know, you increase their acceptance grades or acceptance points to take them in. So yeah, so that is happening here. So, you know, hardworking kids, there is a disparity here in this education system. But I would say that education system is pretty good here as compared to, you know, India, because you have such good technology. Even my kid who's in middle school at this time, they're using high technology that we didn't hear, I hadn't used, or I hadn't even heard of, even when I was doing my master's. And even now I'm guessing that, you know, if you go in colleges in India, they would not be using it. They've got these smart boards, and they've got these computers and iPads available in school for the kids to use. And they've got such high, you know, online studies where the teachers are posting their videos of, you know, whatever concept they've taught for the kids to watch at home. So it's really great. Not only this, the teachers are quite helpful. So, you know, they'll be there for you if you have any problems. They'll help you out. It's not like, you know, oh no, we are not available, or, you know, that you can only ask me during the class or something like that. They have particular periods available for the kids to come for help, and things like that have been done. So that is really great, and they are helpful. You know, when you go to them, they'll help you out. It's not like, you know, they'll say, oh, I don't have time today, or, you know, they'll give you a time but not be there. Things like that don't happen. So it's very professional, and you do get help. The teachers are there to help you. And if you have certain problems, there are high authorities in the education system itself that you can go to and talk to them and let them know that this is what I'm facing, and they'll make sure that, you know, it's sorted out for you. So education way, so I've told you both, you know, what's good in the education system and what's bad in the education system, both in India and in US. So when I'm talking in India, I'm talking at the time when I was there and I was studying. So things might have changed over there. It's been like, you know, 20 years. So things might have improved and or might have changed or deteriorated there too. But I'm telling you from my viewpoint. So these are the positives and negatives. I'm thinking that this video is probably getting too long. So I'll probably, you know, go ahead and discuss the standard of living and how living in US and, you know, your general living, you know, houses and things like that. How are they, you know, different from that, comparing, you know, US and India in the next part. So I'll meet you again in the next part where I'll discuss, you know, the lifestyle in India as compared to that in US. And I hope that this video has been informative and is probably going to help you in making a decision, or at least give you an idea between, you know, how things are if you're comparing US and India. So I'll be back again with another video. So till then, take care and do subscribe and like my video and my channel. And I'll be back again with another video. Take care. Bye-bye.